Welcome back, dear friends, to another exciting episode. This time to start actually assembling everything. If you remember last time, I'd got the bellows fixed on to both sides. I'd got the front panel made up with the bits and pieces. So now it's time to start assembling all these lovely particles and getting things started to fit onto here. Is that proper English? I don't know. So despite the fact you've got all these cranks and things, they are just for show. But it doesn't matter, because the whole original idea of this, if you'll remember, was that I bought a digital photo frame for use at steampunk events, and then got more and more carried away trying to turn it into something that looked a little bit more steampunk-like. So there's the inside of the frontispiece. This is what I've made. I've calculated the difference between the inside frame, that's that one, and the other one with the bellows on it, and it's 22mm, so I've fixed that on there. I'm now going to screw that in there. I'm not going to glue this on because you never know. So screw that on that side, another one on this side. Not that way round, no. Not that way round. That way round. That's why I got to use screws and not glue. And then we can get that hopefully mounted in there. Now I've countersunk the holes this side for the screw heads. And was it countersunk on that side? Because when you screw something into another piece of wood, such as that, it turfs up. It makes a little mountain of wood where it's escaped from the hole, and that can lift things up a little bit, but if you just have a little countersink, it stops it from happening. That's what I'm talking about. Nice and rigidly fixed on, top and bottom, or bottom and top, or side to side indeed. So now we've got the front fixed on rigidly. This side is ever so slightly lower than this side. It's about there's about 2 or 3 millimeters in it. And when I was fixing these on, screwing them on, I clamped things and tried to move it and twist it. I thought that's not going to be much. And I started screwing it together and noticed that each of these sides are sort of suddenly bowed out. Amazing. It's such a rigid mechanism, I suppose it would be. It's amazing. It'll go up and down, in and out, but it will not twist at all. Little top tip for you. I don't know why it's slightly twisted, but thankfully you'd never know it, to be honest with you. And the fact that the next job is to make these adjustable feet, 4 of them, that's quite handy, because it means no matter how twisted that is, it'll stay upright. So here's my little collection of bits to make the feet from, and other bits and pieces. They're the bits that go at the back either side. I haven't put them on yet because they'll get damaged before they've got the bolts in. There's one of the feet, the threaded 8mm bolts that I turn the end down of to make it nice and smooth. Laser cut 10mm. These are the adjustment things that go, where do they go? There, there's one there. As you can see, I've turned it down on the lathe a bit, so it's got a nice little radius at the top. And these two at the front. Strange enough, not a radius at the top, a little cut out bit in the middle. I think I might do them all radiused because they do look nice. Then there's these two bits, nulled and not nulled. And these two bits make up the 4 of these theoretical adjusters to move the bellows in and out. And the other really exciting thing is, now I've got everything rigid together, fixed, I can start thinking about the scissor mechanism, which is, oh, I can't wait to do that, and fixings on and things like that. Oh, really exciting. So the first job is to tap these holes so they can take the M8 bolt. And also, once I've done that, it means that I can then put them on the lathe to turn the fronts and backs down. And luckily I found an M8 tap. The thing is, I want this to be tapped properly, perpendicularly, and it's very easy to wander off, especially when you're using a big tap like an M8. I'm just going to spread a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on that, and now that's fixed into the lathe, so I'm just going to do it manual. Lovely, I'll get the other 4 done. what I've managed to do is to work out where bolting this on so I can switch it around easily, and I found a cutter, and because I want all four to be the same, identical, I've clamped it this way so it can't move, so I can only go in and out with the cutter. And if I touch it on the top and set it to 0, and then I take 2.5 whatever, so it's yeah, 2.5 millimeters off. Let's give that a go then. That's lovely, very pleased with that. And my brain is no longer a muscle, because I realised that rather than having to unbolt the whole thing and bolt it all back the other way around, I can just do that. Oh dear. Another cup of coffee, and we're ready to go again. That's nice and symmetrical, I like the look of that. So while they're all drying, and these are drying, I thought I'd have a look at threading up this bit. As it turns out, there's an M5 thread that goes into this bit, and this is an M10 Munson ring with a Munson ring extender, such as, you can get them both ways round, but this is a female plate with a male extender on it. The other thing is that any sort of M10 studding will fit into that, so it's very handy, and then you screw that in. But I need to have that to take an M5 thread. So, needless to say, just glue one in. No, let's turn one down. So I had an M10 bolt, which I drilled out the middle to 5, and look, I thought I'd just show you this. There's no way that's in the centre, is there? Absolutely none. But it is in the centre. It's because the thread sticks out more that side than that side, if that makes any sense at all. I couldn't believe it. I thought, nah, no way is that in the centre. But then put it on the lathe, and it certainly was. I thought the driller drifted or something. I've just had a lovely time turning down, or turning up, some brass to make these two spacers. Lovely. What fun. So I've got a 5mm hole through the middle. I think I've calculated it right. So these two on the top, those two on the bottom, plus the scissor action, I think I've got that all levelled up and lined up in the right place. Probably not, fingers crossed. But now it's time to take the dog for a walk. Is it time for a walk? Do you want to go for a walk, Ziggy? I'll take that as a yes. It's the next day and I've got the feet on. Dried overnight, and lovely little gem, plastic gem in the centre. And why not? Completely carried away. They look lovely. I'm very pleased with these knurled knobs. And then the two at the front as well. They're nice. And they can extend right out. So you can, in fact, when you're displaying this, you can tilt it backwards if it's easier for people to see the screen. I just love this project. There's so many different parts to it. What to do next is to get, these are dry now, they've been dry for several days. So now I can engrave the engravings basically out of this piece of laser engraving laminate that's normally white on the top with the black at the back. But I've sprayed brass. I don't think I've tried this before, so it'd be interesting to see what happens when we try and laser engrave it. So here's the design. I'm going to raster engrave the actual lettering because it looks lovely. Well, the raster engraving seems to be working very well. I've forgotten about the thing with soot though, because I'm not sure. Normally I use isopropyl alcohol, but I don't want to risk. Well, I'll try it on an inconspicuous area, as they always say, because I don't want to risk trying to wipe off the soot and destroying all the brass paint as well. Well, they're not too bad actually. There's a little bit of soot. I did try on an inconspicuous area with some isopropyl alcohol, but it started to take the paint off, so that's not an option. They're also all slightly too big to push in the awl, so I'm going to cut them out again, but this time I'm going to use a bit of masking tape on top of this so that to protect it against the soot. One top tip, if you want masking tape not to stick so well, put it on your trousers or some other dusty, disreputable thing, and it'll actually take quite a lot of the stick off. Well, they've come out very nicely. Pleased with them. Nice little juxtaposition between the silver and the brass. Lovely. The great thing about these is you can just push them in the holes, get them all lined up and spaced correctly, then put a drop of super glue on each shaft where it comes through after you've arranged them. How lovely. And it would be possible to have these actually operating real switches, push switches, but you can't get access to any of the electronics on the picture frame, so they were purely decorative. Now, before I do anything else, I always forget to do this, I need to drill a 10mm hole 45 degrees into this corner, straight into that screw in effect, so I can glue in some 10mm studding to support the big Munson ring that's going to hold the flame. There's the flickering flame, there are the Munson rings, 42mm, lovely, that's fixed in. I can adjust it by twisting that in and out a little bit. Next thing, let's start finally on these angled parts. I vaguely remember having issues with this, especially getting the middle hole lined up. So I've measured the points up and down for each of the 4 pivots and marked them in corresponding places, and it does fit, although I have to move this a little bit because it is that middle hole. So I'll put a bolt through there, and then I can mark these out and work out the different levels and things. But I'm really pleased because that does look nice with those extra slots fitting out, pushing out the front. I didn't have a plan of all this, so I'm drawing a plan of all this. I've realised, of course, it's obvious when you think about it. I'm just fixing on this end to work out where to position the other end. Of course, it's a triangle, so there's no way that this can have any sort of scissor action. Still, mustn't grumble, because I can now work out exactly where these two need to go. Well, it's all lined up beautifully, except for this bit, the spacer I made yesterday, which I've got precisely, I think it's about 4mm, 3mm too long. I don't know about the other side, because it's slight differences on both sides. I'll get that turned down though. That's better, it just slips in nicely. Right, now to get some M5 studding there, and we can get this side finished. Ooh, look! That's lovely! I'm so pleased. What fun to be combining all these different types of hardware and fittings and things. That's lovely. And also, I have all the salient details now recorded. So I now swap that round. I've been cutting all the bits of studding I need and things for the other end as well. So swap that around, get the other side on. There we have it. We have the one on the right, and I've glued that with a copper on ready. And the one on the left. It's a bit disconcerting having a hole right through the middle. Perhaps I'll have to fit the screen in soon. What I thought I'd do during the meanwhile is I've got another copper fitting there. I've got, where are we? One of these brass fittings that's going to sit in this hole, and then that metal pipe, the braided pipe, can go between the two. Thing is, little top tip possibly, this fitting, and you do sometimes find fittings that are meant to be the standard size, there's no way they're anything else, they're just too close, but this would not screw onto that. It's very strange. I've come across it a couple of times. I think it's just down to quality, really small pore tolerances or whatever. So what I found was, I don't know whether this worked, but it did, just sanding, machining, whatever you want to call it, the tops of all the threads off. And now that screws on perfectly. Really strange. Now with this end of the pipe, I want to get it to fit into a standard bit of 15mm copper. A really good way of doing that, if it's not too big a gap, is to use heat shrink sleeving. This is nice because it's got adhesive inside, and I'm just hoping that it's not going to stay too big to push into the copper. Let's give that a go. Right, let that cool down a little bit and we'll see whether that does fit. Look at that, it just pushes on beautifully. It's a little bit of super glue, and Bobby's your uncle. That's come out really nicely, I'm pleased with that. Lovely. And this is slightly angled to the right as the original one was, just to make sure this doesn't actually hit and bang and rub against any of the brass bits. Actually, what I thought I'd do before I do that is to put the screen in place, because I can still get to it pretty easily at the moment, but once there's all the wheels and things, it'll be nigh on impossible. Problem is, I can't remember where I've put it. I have no idea. I've glanced around me, nothing's jumping out. So, give me a moment and I'll try and find it. Ah, I have just seen it on the pinball machine. Lovely. Oh, that's good. It's not lost, it's not damaged, it's safe. Right, let's get that into there. It's all fixed in, these 4 spring clips in the corners and little self-tapping screws with holes in little pieces of, I keep saying little pieces of 10mm thick acrylic in each corner for spacers. I drilled the holes too big and thought, well, never mind, let's not worry about it. I put 1 drip of super glue into each of the 4 holes. And now this must be sort of like a week later. And each of these self-tappers has gone in really nice and tightly. Wonder whether it will work, but another top tip from Steamhead. Oh, fantastic. Right, stop talking. Let's see what it looks like from the other side. Lovely. So I was trying to reflect everything in the room. Okay, I think it might be time to take the dog for a walk. Is it time for Ziggy to go for a walk? Is it walk time? Is it? Come on then. Let's go for a walk. Well, the tail's going. Oh, bless you, she loves a good old tummy rub. Yeah. Oh, Ziggy wiggy wiggy. That's it. Let's get the lead and let's get some effort on the canine side of things. Actually, whilst I'm at it, I might as well connect this up and see what it looks like when it's working. It's handy because all of the connections are down one side of this. And I put a pen drive in with a load of video files on and images, and hopefully it'll just cycle through. You can get, I'll put the link for this one that I bought in the description. I bought them previously branded, but obviously they're made by the same Chinese company, and the other companies just pay to have their own branding put on, but they do actually function identically. Right, let's see what that looks like. Look! It started working! Excellent. And sound as well. Fantastic. Look at the side. I'm very pleased with how this has all come out. With all the shine on the brackets and things. So that's that side. We've got the front. And yeah, on that side, I'm very pleased with that. I did, by the way, tone down all the colour on these videos to make them look old-fashioned. And funnily enough, this is where I'd got to when I built the original one. I'd finished that, then I thought I'd add the bellows, then I added that bit, and thought, I know, I'm just going to leave an arbitrary gap here for some sort of mechanism, and that's when the fun started. Right, let's get on with lots of exciting mechanisms. I think what I'm going to start by doing is this central one. Sort of like the main pivot. It drives that, it drives that, drives that one. Start with that. So I've taken some measurements, because as always, I haven't got any measurements for this dimensions. There we are, 159 long. These are the 2 brackets that supports that shaft. I've pushed the bearings into them. They're my favourite bearings. 13mm outside diameter, 4mm inside diameter, and 5mm deep. Thank you. And arranging them like this on the outside, both of them, it means they're captive. I can't begin to remember why or how at the moment, but they are. Next thing then, you can see I've put slots in these. So once I've marked these out, to make sure that the axle is completely lined up, and just shift them ever so slightly. No matter how carefully you design and make stuff, I can guarantee it won't line up. Always needs a little bit of fiddling. So I've got the front one screwed on, I've got the back one roughly lined up. You can see it's very difficult. I know it's horizontal, so I'm going to get a block of wood and a square and just check that's absolutely at right angles before I tighten this up. That's it, happy with that, and that spins. Not quite a spinny thing just yet, but soon it will be. The tolerances are amazing on this, because I had all these lovely chromium plated drive shafts, and Fisher Technic, that's right. they're just too large. They say they're for 3.9mm diameter, but they're just over and they won't go through the bearings. So that's some 4mm steel rod that I've always had no problems with. And I had to put it on the lathe and turn down a little raised section because it wouldn't go through. Crazy, I tells you. So the next thing I'm going to do, to partially check that is right angles and to start building stuff, so I'm going to assemble this. Where is it? This one, because that's the main central mechanism thing. And I've got all the parts made up, so let's screw them all together. There's the pulley on the back. I've countersunk the 4 holes. My calculations suggest I need screws that are 25mm long. And what I'm going to do, single-handedly, hang on a minute, double-handedly actually, put that on, then we line this up and put this on. Ooh, it's always exciting, isn't it? And we've got this on. Yes. And hopefully we've got 4mm roughly sticking through. That'll be for the dome nuts. Let's get them on. Oh dear friends, I think we might have a spinny thing. The idea of having the bearing on outside is that you don't have a little brass spacer there. The shaft's going to be glued into this particular one, and then another little spacer here, and then a pulley that's fixed onto the front. Therefore that holds the 2 bearings in place, they can't drift out. Shall we go for a spin? Ooh, oh look. Oh how lovely. You know me and spinny things. And because they're bearings, it just goes on and on and on. Oh how lovely. I'm very pleased with that. And it doesn't wobble around or anything. Excellent. Right, I'm going to get this drive shaft glued into that, but once I've done that I can't get that out other than by unscrewing these two, so I know I've got an escape plan if necessary. First though, I've got to remember to put the worm drive on here, and I think all the captive things are caught. I'll get that done. Thanks very much for watching. Next time, adding more mechanisms. It's all so exciting. Thanks again. Hope to see you next time.